why don't we just cut it in half? So he's on his way, but I believe we've got him right now on the phone lines with us. Dr. Maggard, how are you?
And I'm so very sorry for the delay.
It's all right. Why don't we just get right into it then while you're on your way? Obviously, be careful in traffic. But I wanted to ask you a number of things, Dr. Maggard. First and foremost, you know, the new turf, which was written about earlier this week, released by the university. It's going to be ready to go, replace the one that was put down in 2008. So a matrix turf. What's the cost of a project like this and sort of the quick turnaround of getting it ready for the football season?
Right. Well, we worked with a company called Hellas, and they're working with us in a great way, both from a timing and cost standpoint. And so, you know, this is a project that's, you know, $400,000 plus. And, you know, but I'm very appreciative of their ability and willingness to get this done in such a short time frame. But this will be a great, I think, bolster for our football program, Cajun Field, and certainly our student athletes. They're, you know, that field, I've walked on it myself, and it was definitely ready for a replacement. And so just really glad that we were able to get this done.
What is going to be, I guess, in the center of the field? What's the center logo for the new turf? Are there any changes from the old one?
You know, there'll be some changes, I think, in color, to be honest with you, but we'll have the stacked Ragin Cajun logo in the center. We'll have updated conference logos, and you know, we will reveal the design here very soon. But it'll be a nice pop to the stadium, and I think everybody will be very pleased.
Well, can we at least give us a little idea of what's in the end zone? Is it Louisiana on one side? Fans are just curious.
I know they're curious, and I'll reveal it now. It's Louisiana in the end zones.
All right, Louisiana. Breaking news here, Cajun fans. Louisiana will be written in both end zones with the new turf. But as you mentioned, Dr. Maggard, our guest right now, Louisiana Ragin Cajun athletic director, Dr. Bryan Maggard, the center logo, a couple different colors, a little more pop. There will be some changes to it. Fans, I guess, from the naked eye will be able to see the difference with this new turf.
Absolutely. No question.
So season tickets for football, how are renewals when the real push began, and where is it at right now?
You know, we are around the 7,000 mark. I would tell you, in my opinion, that's down. I'm not happy with that by any means. And that's no mark against anybody but us. I want to make sure that we're going out, and we got to be much more proactive in our approach. But I also realize that July is a slow month in ticket sales, and so I anticipate things picking up in August, and you'll see a much more concerted effort and push from us to be more outbound as opposed to being inbound.
I guess so. When is that real push going to begin, if it hasn't already? Is this in the next few weeks? Is this when August 1 hits?
Yeah, next couple of weeks, next week or two.
How would, so with that real push, how would you sell people on the season tickets?
Well, I mean, for me, it's just, listen, it's the start of college football season. We have an amazing product here. And, you know, Cajun Nation is a very loyal fan base. And we are working very hard on coming up with some ideas that I won't reveal yet to enhance the fan experience inside the venue. And so we will be getting that information out, hopefully much sooner than later. But, you know, here's what we need to do. We need our fan base to be there on the Saturdays that we're playing at home and the Thursday nights, because as we all know, it's so much better for our student athletes to run out, you know, in front of a crowd of 30 to 40,000, you know, versus a crowd that's less than that. So.
A week ago today, you spoke at the official ribbon cutting of the new Ragin Cajun golf facility at Oak Barn. For folks that saw it on social media but haven't gotten a close inside look yet, just paint a picture for the listeners. And after that, Dr. Maggard, just explain what this facility means to the program, both now and in the future.
Well, I would encourage people, and I don't know what access would be like to get into the Oakbourne parking lot. But if you ever had a chance to get out there, we've got a clubhouse that is second to none in America. I promise you that. I've seen many, many of them, and this clubhouse is as good as they come. I promise you. It's going to match the look of Oakbourne and their facilities. We're going to have the highest levels of technology involved to help our student athletes develop as golfers. It's going to have an amazing locker room, office space for our coaching staff. And listen, this is what Coach Slyman needs to recruit at a high level. And I'm so grateful for those before me and our supporters and donors who stepped up to build this. Because this is what it takes. If we want to compete at the national level, we have to have resources and facilities like this. And so from a recruiting standpoint and a student-athlete development standpoint, we are as good as they are in America.
Dr. Bryan Maggard, our guest, ESPN1420 and .com. He is actually en route, but we're getting this thing started on the phone line. The man is extremely busy, ladies and gentlemen. We appreciate him taking the time. It won't be long, getting back to football for a moment, Dr. Maggard, before the season's here. September 2nd, it kicks off against Southeastern. And last year, there was a clear bag recommendation, but not a policy. Now there's a clear bag policy for all sporting events at the university. Describe exactly what it entails and I guess the reasoning behind it.
Well, so the reason behind it really centers around public safety. And this policy is going to be consistent with professional sport teams and probably 75 to 90% of collegiate sporting venues. And so, what we need to do is make sure that we are consistent with national trends. But listen, public safety is going to be first and foremost our priority. And this should be something, though, that I really don't think it's going to be an inconvenience for our fan base. It should make entrance into our stadium and all of our venues much quicker and smoother. And ultimately, we're just aligning with what the national trends are.
Dr. Bryan Maggard, our guest. Dr. Maggard, we'll go ahead, take a quick break. I know you're not far away, and he'll join us. He'll join us in studio for the next segment. We're going to get into the branding and something that I noticed today over on ESPN's website. We'll also talk about tailgating, RCAF donations as it pertains to that, and he's got a big day on Sunday. What are his plans? We'll explain what that day is. That's all coming your way next, right here on Bird's Eye View. I'm Scott Prather, Louisiana Ragin Cajun Director of Athletics, Dr. Bryan Maggard. Welcome back, everybody, here for the rest of the hour. In studio now, Dr. Bryan Maggard, Louisiana Ragin Cajun Director of Athletics. We'll recap some of the things he and I discussed a little earlier in the last segment whenever we kind of get close to the top of the hour. But as we move forward, your daughters had birthdays recently, correct?
They have. So I have a now 20-year-old, Aubrey. Her birthday was on Monday, the 17th. Caitlin is now 18. She was July 9th. And Dad's birthday, I turn I just have a birthday on Saturday. How's that? That's all I'm going to say.
Saturday. So I'm sorry. I had it off. I was thinking Sunday.
No, it's all good.
So it ends with a 0. We won't say what the number starts with. But my point is,
as young as you feel and act.
It's a big one.
Sure, absolutely.
What are your plans?
Carrie, my wife, is getting in town on Friday, and as I told you here in the timeout, I'm very excited. I'm about done from living apart, and sure. But we got about one more month to go. But she'll fly in town on Friday. I'll pick her up at the airport here in Lafayette. We'll drive over to New Orleans on Saturday for Sunbelt Media Day days, and so we'll go out to a nice dinner on Saturday night and celebrate my birthday in just a quiet setting. It's about my speed, and then I'll have a series of meetings on Sunday afternoon. We'll have a function Sunday night, and then Coach Hud, and he'll have his session Monday afternoon. We'll get back here in town on Monday night, and then we close on our home on Tuesday.
There you go. Well, you got a lot of stuff coming up. Yeah. If you have any pull at the office, tell them next year to put HUD and the crew first instead of last.
Yeah.
They'll be at 5.
5 o'clock.
We'll have some crew down there covering it on social media. We'll have a lot of interviews. A lot of them will air in the afternoon, but plenty of stuff for you from ESPN 1420 as it pertains to this Monday. But right now, Dr. Bryan Maggard is with us. Well, enjoy the birthday. We won't say anything else about it.
Thank you very much.
I know it's making you uncomfortable.
It's not. It's just, to me, it's another day.
Well, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Happy
very
birthday.
Much. Thank you.
Tailgating for the football season. You knew when you took this job how big tailgating was down south and specifically at the university here. Has the RCAF minimum donation increased at all for tailgating spots, or is it the same?
Yeah, this year going in, we did not increase it. Now, our tailgating spots, we elevated that value a little bit. But with regards to just your normal tailgating spot, based on your donation level, what you get for that has not changed at all. So I'm very excited to take in tailgating here. I've heard nothing but amazing things about it. Carrie and I will make the rounds in the parking lot on Friday nights and hang out with the RV folks, and then I'll certainly make my rounds, as she will, on Saturday prior to games, and just try to take it all in. I understand there's unbelievable food and beverage that'll be offered, and I have to limit myself, I'm sure, but I'm really excited to experience that.
Yeah, you will be fed every game day. That is certain. You mentioned last segment that I kind of pressed you on it, and you wanted to wait till it was revealed, but you told us that the new turf, right, each end zone will say Louisiana.
Right.
The thinking behind that is branding.
Absolutely.
And I'm looking at that battle of branding that's been going on for a long time, and then finally the Sun Belt agrees, and then you're looking at, ESPN and others and saying, hey, you know what, we're called Louisiana, if you could put it that way. I noticed today in the standings page at ESPN.com, it says Louisiana. Last year it said Louisiana Lafayette.
Absolutely.
So looking at all the football preseason polls, coaches polls that were released today, looking at it, kind of scouring through various websites and, sports media outlets, they've all said Louisiana today. So the fight doesn't end, but I feel like maybe on days like today, you kind of have a little fist pump and say, all right.
Progress, absolutely.
ESPN's a big one.
And it is. And, that'll be one that'll help drive, I think, anything and everything else. And, we're the University of Louisiana. And that's why I consider us. And from an athletic branding standpoint, and from certainly the Sun Belt, was really the first to step up and help establish that. But it is about branding, and we need to be consistent with our branding. And we want that the stacked Ragin Cajun logo prevalent, and that'll be there. We want Louisiana prevalent, and quite honestly, our tertiary mark internally, from an athletic standpoint, is going to be the fleur-de-lis. And so...
The red fleur-de-lis.
Red fleur-de-lis.
Dr. Bryan Maggard, our guest. Will a listener threw this question out there, and I find it an interesting one that's good to ask you, having been at Mizzou and been a part of P5 schools in their athletic department. Charter flights. Now some of the airlines are increasing prices, and some schools are looking for alternate avenues, and I know some of the schools in the Big Ten that might have taken shorter flights are now switching to bus rides. What are the biggest issues in terms of the collegiate athletic world regarding chartered flights for the sporting teams, and I guess some of the recent changes that some of the airlines have made?
Well, I mean, I can't speak for the airlines, but for us, obviously, in the schools, it's pricing, right? I mean, that's going to be the first factor that you take into consideration, and ideally, perfect world, we're chartering all of our teams to every, event that's not drivable because of the travel efficiencies associated with that. When you have to fly commercial, you're at the mercy of the schedules of the airlines, and the reality of it is that will delay our student athletes. It creates more missed class time. There's added expense in terms of hotels, because often, a team will have to spend the night and fly out the next morning. It's not a inexpensive mode of travel, chartering, and You're fortunate at the Power 5 level to be able to do that more than not, right? Certainly with your revenue-generating sports. And then on occasion, you're hoping that you can provide some charter opportunities for the Olympic sports. But most of them, to be honest with you, they'll fly commercial. And so, yeah, it's just I'd love for us to get there because it is. You can take it down to a student-athlete welfare issue. But at the end of the day, they're getting safe transportation either way. It's just one's a little bit more delayed.
Dr. Bryan Maggard, our guest. I know the baseball team this past year, the commercial flight from Coastal, and I guess that creates the issue of conference membership, and I know that Idaho's only there one more year, but obviously no one can – I say no one can. I doubt any team is going to bus all the way to Moscow, Idaho. So that the more – I guess, closer in proximity. And I guess Jay and I discussed this with you. I think this was either last month or the month before about discussions at the Sun Belt Conference meetings in Florida and, the possibility of aligning with CUSA in terms of scheduling. So with those meetings, was there talk of scheduling? And I guess what were the dominant topics discussed there with the other ADs?
When it comes to the conference alignment piece, we had some dialogue, about the talk that was out there about Conference USA and Sun Belt maybe doing some type of alignment. And as I said before, I'll say again, I'm all about regional competition. I really think that it would behoove all of us to focus on more regional play, right? Doesn't mean you have to be in the same conference, but even if you're your non-conference opponents, to me, there's no reason why we're not playing Southern Miss and La Tech and Tulane and schools like that in our non-conference opponents, as opposed to having to fly, to Ohio or to Liberty or wherever you might go, right? But there hasn't been much more dialogue that I've heard, from those meetings since then, and. I will tell you this: the Sun Belt Conference is a competitive conference. There's no doubt. There's unbelievable athletic teams, in the Sun Belt Conference. And, I will just tell you, my focus today is I want to position our sport teams to win championships where we are today. And that's what we're going to focus on. From a scheduling standpoint, though, it makes all the sense in the world to me and to other, whether you're Power 5 or Group of 5, however you're labeled, the regional play, I think it's better for your student athletes. I think it's better for your fan bases because people can actually travel to, right? Mm-hmm. And, so just because, you're labeled a Power 5 school and you can afford to fly to Miami, from Purdue, why wouldn't you look to, play, a school that's much closer to you.
A closer opponent rather than go to Boca.
Because your both fan
FAU.
bases can then, participate in that. And it's harder and harder today, we know this, to draw people out of that comfortable recliner in front of the 60-inch flat screen TV. I've said this before. And so if you give, people a reason to get out and do that, where it's a drivable distance, they can go see a new venue and experience a new college town. Why not?
Hearing you say it, Dr. Maggard, it seems like it would make sense for that to sort of be the case all along. But it's odd that it almost feels like, in some ways, a new line of thinking. And, of course, we're speaking specifically about non-conference opponents and excluding, the guarantee games, which, if you can get them close, good. But,
sure.
But sort of just when you're scheduling perhaps a home-and-home with a non-conference opponent, at least perception-wise, to me in the past, it's been more long-distance travel, not just in the Sun Belt, but kind of across the board. Why do you think something like, hey, it kind of makes more sense for the fan bases, for money-wise, for competitive reasons as well? I mean, it's different to go a short distance than a long distance when you're preparing for a game. Why do you feel like this is more of a new line of thinking?
I think more and more today that the financial component is becoming prevalent. It's becoming harder and harder to sustain the financial models today, particularly, the Group of 5 schools.
Right.
To depend solely on ticket sales, concessions, development, multimedia rights, things like that. You're just at the mercy, of so many things that you can't control. And so I think we need to, if we're going to continue that funding model, which I'm not convinced is, going to necessarily remain the future, is that, you've got to find ways to be more efficient with your expenses. And travel is a huge piece of our expense budget.
The recent hire of Nico
Yanko. Nico is short for Nicholas. So think of it that way.
Right. Nico Yanko. You and Jay may have covered this the last time he was on, or you were on with him, rather. But what stood out to you about him? Detail his position a little bit, and I'm sure Cajun fans are going to see him around at all the events. So you guys had a little bit of a history before you hired him.
We did. So he and I worked together at the University of Missouri for about six and a half years, and we had a chance to spend a lot of time together. There were a couple different time frames where I oversaw all the external units at Missouri, and he was on that side of the house, if you will. And he was a guy that you could see right away. He's going to be an athletic director. He wants to be, and he will be. And he was just a guy that I always said, hey, if I could ever get him to come with me, if I were ever lucky enough to get an AD job, I'd sure try to recruit him. And I was fortunate to land this job here, and was able to recruit him. And he has hit the ground running. Now he's our deputy athletic director for external operations. That's a really fancy title, that means that he is overseeing marketing, promotions, ticketing, athletics, communications. He'll oversee multimedia rights and really all revenue generation opportunities outside of RCAF, so corporate sponsorships and things like that. And he's a guy that I think our staff has taken a great liking to already. He's very, very motivated, very forward thinking. He's going to be a guy who's going to be very visible. He will be an AD if I can keep him here. If I'm lucky enough to be here 5 to 7 years, I'd love to keep him here that long. And then he will need to progress on because he's that good. But he's already made an impact just from a leadership standpoint, and I think bringing some unity and consistency amongst those groups. He's noticed right away that we've got great people here already, great people, and he's just going to provide some direction and leadership that I think will make those folks even better.
You had a little bit of shock is a strong word. Can we say culture shock or just culture, how do I put it, assimilation? Did you kind of give him a heads up as what he may be assimilating into?
Here's what I told him he was assimilating to, and I mean this with all sincerity. You're going to walk into an environment that has the most genuine relational people you'll ever meet in your life. And on top of that, there's amazing food down here. And, so if there was a shock, it was a positive shock, and it was because of those things. Mm-hmm. I have never experienced a community that has been so embracing, so welcoming, so friendly. Now, listen, I'm not naive. Our folks are passionate about their Ragin Cajuns, and there are a lot of expectations here, which I absolutely, that's why I took the job. I want to take a good place and make it great. And, so my comments to him were, listen, Nico, you're going to come down here, and it's not like Columbia, Missouri, which is a great place to live, but you're going to walk into an environment that you've never experienced before from so many positive ways.
What's been the most difficult part work-wise? I'm sure, and if you can correct me if I'm wrong, I'm sure the most difficult part for you is being away from your family for the move for the short term, but from a work standpoint, what's been the most difficult process since you've kind of landed on your feet and not stopped moving since you came down?
High level, it's just getting my hands around everything, right? We have a $20+ million organization. I'm the CEO of that. I've got so much to learn. I came in here, Scott, knowing that I was going to do two things right off the bat for as long as it took, and that is to listen and learn. I was committed to not come in here just to make changes, or just to put my stamp on things. I really wanted to come in and assess. I wanted to see what players we had on the bus, and do we have the right people in the right seats on that bus. But, I think a big challenge is just implementing my expectations, implementing my communication systems that I want people to follow. And really, for me, my leadership style is this. I'm going to surround myself with really good people. I'm going to provide direction, empower them, and get out of the way, because I have a role to play as the athletic director. I'm not the type of leader who's going to be in the weeds. I'm not going to micromanage. I'm going to surround myself with great people, hold them accountable, but give them the autonomy to do their jobs. When I do that, and I know that I have the right people positioned to do that, then I'm able to focus on, the bigger picture of things as the athletic director. I need to be visible. I need to be out in the communities. I need to be, steering the ship in the direction that our staff wants and needs to go. I got to make sure that I'm positioning or help positioning 16 sport teams, compete for and win championships. I need to go out and acquire more resources. We need to enhance our facilities. We know that. There are a lot of things that I need to be focusing on, but if I'm sitting there dwelling on or making decisions about things that my lieutenants, if you will, should be making, then in my opinion, I'm not leading at the ultimate level I should be.
Yeah, it's about sort of guiding and then trusting that.
Absolutely.
From that, that point, and
great leaders, in my opinion, do three things well. First and foremost, they surround themselves with smarter people than themselves. But two, they inspire and they influence others. And if I'm doing those three things, then we're going to be successful. It starts with people, as you know. Any successful organization, it starts with people. You can have the nicest facilities in America. You can have all the money in the world, but if you don't have good people, all that is for naught.
It's about steering, not driving.
That's exactly right.
I just came up with that out of nowhere.
Listen, you've got it down.
Let's copyright it.
You've got it down.
Dr. Bryan Maggard.
I'm writing that down.
Louisiana Ragin Cajun, Director of Athletics, our guest for a few more minutes. We appreciate you coming in this afternoon, Dr. Maggard. Rounding back real quick to the Sun Belt Conference meetings I guess it was in Sandestin earlier this summer. What was the most talked about or most discussed topic among the ADs?
Yeah, we were in Point Clear, Alabama.
All right, thank you.
Fair Hope, I think, to be technically correct.
Oh, yeah. But, I've been there for a wedding. That's a nice little place.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
First time there. Unbelievable. I will tell you this. I really feel like probably the majority of our discussion centered around basketball scheduling, both men's and women's. There was a model put in place a year ago that was supposed to be a 2-year model. And, coaches from both programs, conference-wide, just I think recognized that wasn't working. It was flawed. Absolutely.
The 18-game conference schedule.
Well, that and then the nights that teams played.
Correct.
You had a Thursday, Saturday, and a Saturday, Monday.
Yeah.
And the men took the Saturday, Monday gig, and they said it was bad from a student-athlete welfare perspective. And so, we spent a lot of time coming up with, do we do stacked versus mirror scheduling or doubleheaders and mirror scheduling? And we knew, given the time sensitivity, we would go with a doubleheader scheduling this upcoming season. And so now we're looking ahead at 18, 19, and beyond. And, can we do mirror scheduling where men are at home, women are away, that type of thing. But that seemed to take a lot of our time. We talked a little bit about the potential conference alignment piece. We did talk about, though, the importance of or the positives of regional scheduling and things like that. And then we spent some time on marketing, promotions, television opportunities, and things like that. So it was a great meeting for me. Really got a chance to meet the conference staff and my colleagues.
Dr. Bryan Maggard has been our guest, rehashing a few things before we let you run. The new turf, you estimated about a $400,000 or so project going to be in place with the season opener. Louisiana in each end zone, and similar logo at center field, but it'll be a little different. It'll pop a little bit more.
It will.
Fans will like it.
Yeah, it will. Our fans will not be disappointed. You're going to walk into Cajun Field and really see a much needed jolt, to our stadium, but not just from an aesthetic standpoint, but also from a player safety. Coach Hudd and I spent a handful of walks together. It sounds funny, but on that turf, and it was in bad shape. It really was. It had lived its lifespan. So to its credit, it did its job, and those things. We say they have a shelf life of about 10 years, but I think that's stretching it, to be honest with you. Particularly here, I think with the elements, the sun, the water. Your drainage has to be good and all that kind of stuff. So I'm really excited about that. I think it's going to be a nice addition. And then, hopefully here sooner than later, we'll be able to roll out some of the fan experience things that we're working on to enhance that in-venue experience. Scott, let me say this. It's critically important. Okay, this is how successful college football programs operate, right? Fans come into the stadium and they stay there. Right? It doesn't matter who you're playing, doesn't matter the outcome of the game. You're staying there and you're doing your part, our part as fans, to try to get, to motivate our student athletes. And, that's just got to be a mindset that we all have to adopt. I mean, that's you go to an Alabama game, they'll sell out their stadium, for their 1AA opponent, right? And it's college football. We need to get excited about it. I know our fan base will, and I'm looking forward to doing our part to make sure that their experience in the venue is first class.
And season tickets right now, renewals are at about 7,000. I know that you guys have a push coming up, but y'all's the plan, that number is not what you're looking for.
Not even close.
Yeah.
I'm disappointed. Not in our fan base. Don't get me wrong. I'm just, I want to make sure that we're doing everything in our end to making sure we're promoting our sport programs, all of them. But obviously the sport of football. We need full houses there. I always say this. We have roughly 700,000 to 800,000 people in Acadiana. And, just give me 40,000 people every home game to be in Cajun Field, and we'll get there. But we got to do our part. We got to make sure that we are being outbound. We need to make sure that we are going to provide an experience for our fans, not the product on the field. I don't control that. I understand that. But I got to make sure that when you do come to our game, Scott, that you're having a great experience. You want to come back, and you'll tell a friend to do the same.
Season tickets on sale. RagingCajuns.com can take you the rest of the way, or you can call 265-2104. That's the Cajun Dome box office. Louisiana ticket manager Matt Casbon can be reached 265-2357. Louisiana Director of Athletics Dr. Bryan Maggard has been our guest. Happy birthday to your daughters, and happy birthday to you. I know it's coming up this weekend. He turns 30 or so. And
again, absolutely.
I know you're busy, Dr. Maggard. I appreciate you coming by.
Listen, I apologize for being late. Your time is no less important than mine, nor our listeners. But as I told you, it's one of those days. I feel like I either swim or I drown. Today's kind of been a drowning day, and it's just a result of back-to-back meetings. But
you want some water?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Like, no, I'm drowning. Get the water away.
Yeah, thank you for listening, listeners. And anytime, Scott, you need me on here, I'm here.
I appreciate it. Dr. Bryan Maggard has been our guest. Next hour, we'll rehash the Sun Belt Conference preseason poll. T-Bob Hebert will be a guest as well. We're going to have some fun. You don't want to go anywhere. Acadiana's best sports leader, ESPN 1420 and ESPN